Hello and welcome along to a very special edition of the Andrew Eborn Show, where I have not one, but two titans of the entertainment industry, Ian Freeman and the wonderful Mike Read. How are you both?
We're very, very well. I'll let Ian do the Titan joke.
I'm fine. We're all fine. Thank you. Thank you,
Brilliant.
Andrew.
Well, the reason I brought you both here today is this is a very special day. Apart from being Canada Day, the 1st of July, and we all ate our pancakes this morning, we loved, it is in fact the 115th anniversary of the Magic Circle, which was founded on the 1st of July, 1905, in a restaurant on 23 magicians got together, a restaurant called Pinoli's on Wardour Street, and we celebrated the birth of the Magic Circle. And the relevance of it, for those who are watching, will know that we managed to get a fantastic British Plaque Trust, and you two gentlemen were responsible for ensuring that that happened. So I thought I'd get you together, we'll reunite and celebrate this anniversary. Coincidence, actually, but it's also not any excuse to get together.
Yeah, I totally forgotten that it was the 1st of July, of course. Yeah, it was.
All day, and it's the 1st of July. I love it.
It was one of the most exciting plaques we did. I think Mike will agree. I mean, we had wonderful media interest, and of course it was unveiled by Dynamo, who, you know, symbolic of the new younger magicians, away from the frilly shirts and beautiful assistants and cutting people in half magic. Dynamo's style of magic very different, and it was a great day. I remember it well. I remember Dynamo telling us that his car couldn't get up Wardour Street because of the crowds, and his driver said, he said to the driver, "I'll get out here." He said, "What?" The driver said, "Yes, I'm sorry." He said, "I'm sorry about this. Apparently Dynamo's appearing at something in Wardour Street." And Dynamo said, "Oh, well, I wouldn't want to miss seeing him, so I'll get out here and walk."
On that particular day, we had the great and good of the magic world, and also lots of other various people from the entertainment world came up. We had David Berglass was there, that fantastic dynasty. He had his own TV series for a very long time. His son Marvin, who will be known to generations of people getting Marvin's magic, he was there. And the great and good of the media, and as well as the magicians around the world. And it was a fantastic day. But it was one of the epitome, if you like, of my introduction to the British Plaque Trust. And so talk to me about how that was set up and why it was set up.
Well, Mike was the driving force, so I'll let him do that.
Mike, over to you.
Okay. Well, Ian and myself both worked with the Heritage Foundation over the years, and for many years, Robin Gibb was the president, I was the vice president, Ian was the treasurer, and we worked pretty hard. And we felt near the end, some of the older guys involved, Leslie Phillips and Nicholas Parsons, felt that it needed to probably go in a different direction, because sometimes plaques were going up. And I had an altercation the other day with somebody who said, "Oh, you didn't want the Screaming Lord's Touch plaque to go up." And I said, well, when you look at some of the plaques, you know, Alexander Fleming, who saved millions of lives, Screaming Lord, I'm not too sure, but you've got to be honest. That's why we have discussions about the plaques, and certainly the Magic Circle one, perfect, because, you know, for them it was their heritage. For them to all go back to the same place where it started is fantastic, and for them all to be there together. And the footfall is fantastic, right in the centre of London as well. It really couldn't have been better. But yeah, Leslie and Nicholas kept saying to the guy that ran it, "Look, you know, why don't you just sort of step down a little bit and let Robin and Mike," and Robin was getting a bit hacked off with it. And we said, maybe we should do something properly. In fact, one of the plaques we did near the end was for Jerome Kern. And the guy running it kept saying, "Oh, yours and Robin's plaque." I said, no, it's our plaque. It's not, "Oh, it's the one you wanted to do for the guy that wrote 3 Men in a Boat." I knew then we were sunk when he thought Jerome Kern wrote 3 Men in a Boat and not The Way You Look Tonight and Old Man River. So I knew that we were on a loser. So we decided we were going to kick off the British Plaque Trust, which did about 10 years ago as the initial inception. And Ian came on board because he'd been involved in the Heritage Foundation as well. And we went from there, really. We've got couple of good patrons. You've got Ian's cousin, Michael Read, and Earl Spencer. And Charlie Spencer loves the whole history of the country and what have you and what we're doing. So I think it's gone from strength to strength. You know, today, I put up something every day on our website. And today, Olivia de Havilland is 104. She's 104 years old today. Famously turned down Errol Flynn, the only woman that did, and probably the only person that did. Anyway, she's 100. So I put up something about Olivia de Havilland and her cousin, Geoffrey de Havilland, who created the Comet, of course, the aircraft designer, which a lot of people didn't know. We've had, to about half an hour ago, 45,000 views on that. I mean, it's incredible. So, and a lot of, you're talking about Canada Day, one of the people that came through and retweeted it and was interested was the guy from the Takla Nation, and one of the Indian territories in Canada. So suddenly it's opened it up to that, and you can see how fast it spreads because America has, you know, a population 5 times bigger than ours, that it's fantastic. I mean, so yeah, I thought, oh yeah, a few thousand people may look at it, but 45, it'll hit 50,000 by the end of the day. Amazing.
And it is a wonderful catalyst, isn't it, for looking at buildings and searching the history of a particular place. So it's associated with a particular celebrity or an event and so on and so forth. And what happens is then it brings tourists, hopefully when they're allowed to come, into a particular area. And it's really sparked an interest, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as far as tourism is concerned, blue plaques are on everyone's list of must-sees when they come to the UK, especially to London, obviously. And the thing that, I mean, just to add to what Mike said about what the Heritage Foundation was doing and other organisations, they were centering mainly on show business. We, while being people in show business, didn't want to exclusively focus on that. There's no way that, for example, the Heritage Foundation or indeed English Heritage would have done a plaque for the Magic Circle, because it wouldn't have occurred to them. But that's why we decided to be slightly different and slightly more eclectic, if you like. And we've done a plaque for the Magic Circle. We've done a plaque for the Football Association. We've done poets. We've done entertainers, musicians. We've pretty much covered the entire gamut, and not just the English heritage worthy authors and other people, and not only the showbiz crowd, the elderly actors and so on. We covered just about everything.
No, and I love the fact that you would partner with somebody, for example, like the BBC, and you do then lots of sites, which for a long time have been crying out for recognition. And so
well, Michael tell you about that, because he put the Music Day deal together with the BBC, but it was phenomenal, Mike.
Yeah, they came to me and said, we're looking to do something for Music Day. And I said, well, what about Blue Plaques? Because right across the country, there'll be somebody in each of the 40 BBC areas. So they loved it. I did a 35,000 word document that included people from each area. Folk artists, off the wall artists, poets, goodness knows what. Just not necessarily music, but it turned out that way. And we formed 40 committees around the country in a national committee. And I said, look, spend 2 weeks talking about it on air. Mention these people, because people are inherently lazy. So I said, here's something for you to talk about. Other people might come up with other things. And then at the end of that, your committee send in a top 3. The ones you'd like to see. 1, 2, 3. We look at it, and if the number 1 is an agreement, one area came up, and they said, "Oh, this is where David Bowie first played under his new name." And I had to go back very politely, as Ian knows you do sometimes. You have to tread carefully. And I said, "Well, it actually wasn't. That was at the Marquee." And they said, "No, it was." I said, "I think if you have a look at this poster." And they went, right. It was when he was thinking about changing his name. I said, it doesn't quite count in the same way. So we went a different route. We went Jimmy Kennedy for that area, who wrote Harbour Lights. Again, lovely stories, dropping his mother and his sister off at Southampton in 1937, driving back to Weybridge. It's foggy, loses his way, pulls into a pub car park, and the headlights stick out the pub sign, Harbour Lights. By the time he's got back to Weybridge, he's got the song. And it was the first commercial song that Elvis ever recorded. So the first song that Elvis ever recorded commercially was about a Portsmouth pub, and those things, I think, make it quite interesting.
Oh, no, fascinating. And you do get some bizarre requests, don't you? We were talking previously about Jimi Hendrix sitting on a bench feeding chips to seagulls. I think that was one of them which came up at one stage.
Yeah, I think that's right. I did a lot in a literary festival last year, and I didn't know the girl in the audience asking the question was from the Telegraph. And she said, shouldn't there be plaques for the first 20 female MPs? And I said, well, what about the first 20 male MPs? Well, maybe the first 10 female MPs. And I said, well, what about the first 10 male MPs? I'm not going to get perverse here. She said, well, at least the first one. I said, well, Nancy Astor has one, even though she wasn't the first one to actually take a seat. That was somebody from Sinn Féin. And the girl sat down again. So you've got to be prepared.
About history, that's the lesson there, isn't it?
You've got to be prepared for things like that. But we got a lot of press out of it because I said sometimes if people were there overnight, there are certain things that they were just there for a night or something. So-and-so was here. I think it devalues the others. I mean, Charles Dickens has about 50 plaques. Not that, you know, he shouldn't have, but I think it devalues the main ones if you just whack them up anywhere. And yeah, the fish and chips one, that's nonsense.
But a bit of tongue-in-cheek occasionally works quite. So just to help people then who are watching this, and by their millions they all tune in, what would be the criteria? If somebody wants to get a British Plaque Trust plaque put up, what should they do?
Mike, do you want to go with that? I mean, we put together a sort of list of criteria when we started. And Mike, do you want to go for that?
Yeah, I mean, so we've got a website, BritishPlaqueTrust.com, so people can go there and see the varied plaques that we do. When somebody comes through, I remember once we had somebody wrote to me constantly about this pioneering female parachutist, and I said, and it turned out that both the houses she lived in had been flat and were under dual carriageways. So I had to be very diplomatic, and I went back in the end and said, why don't you write a small book about it? That's a good idea. So they went away happy rather than just slapping in the face and saying no.
I think
somebody recently...
The criteria are people or organizations that have done something good for the country. I don't think it doesn't necessarily mean they have to be world famous or they have to be showbiz stars or wealthy, but you know, if they've done something that we and our committee consider of value for the UK, then they are people that we would consider. Is that right, Mike?
It's a unique, someone that's made a unique contribution in their field.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's sport, whether it's politics, whether it's medicine, whatever. You know, Roger Bannister running the first sub-4-minute mile, Alexander Fleming penicillin. You go to Paddington Station, you look up at the hospital next door and think, in that window up there, he saved millions and millions of lives. So I think, something unique in your field, really. And again, whether it's overall, somebody asked for one the other day about a certain person, and I said, well, there's one very close to there. And the other place you want to put it up is screened by trees, so no one's going to see it. So let's have a further think. So you often get engaged in talking about these things and where is the best place, where is the suitable place. Of course, these days, it moves faster. That old thing with English heritage, or you've got to be dead for 20 years. In a high-tech age, that doesn't really work anymore. But then that said, you know, you've got to have someone that you think is going to be durable and someone that's going to last. You don't want someone looking at and going, who was that? Oh, they had 3 hit records. You know, that's not good. So they have to. It's a unique contribution that's maybe changed the course of your country in some way.
The details are all on the website, as you say. And the other thing that people don't really appreciate is the amount of work behind the scenes. Not just a question of turning up with somebody on a ladder and bang it into the wall. You had to do certain permissions with the council, permissions. Talk us through some of those.
Well, I mean, the obvious thing you have to get after deciding where you want to put the plaque is planning consent from the local authority. Now, majority of local authorities are very happy to grant consent because a blue plaque is seen as something of value that can add value not only to the property on which it's placed, but also to the borough or the local area in which it's erected. So, in the main, and with a couple of exceptions, the local authorities are very, very conducive to having a plaque in their area. Mike, do you want to go through any other points there? I mean, planning consent is just one thing, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes people simply don't want a plaque on their house. Sometimes they will say, will it add value to my property? They're thinking. I said, no, but it's of interest. And other people say, well, I don't want people peering in my windows. One of the places for British Music Week day 3 or 4 years ago, we were looking at, 2017. I got to the door of one house and the guy almost set his dog on me. And this sort of stream of swear words pouring through the door. And I said, I take it that's a no, is it? And he was quite, I don't know what he was hiding. He did not want to know at all. So that's very rare, though. I mean, most people are fine, and most people like the idea that they've got a plaque on their house. Some are not aware of the history. I was talking with Tim Rice the other day, and I said, are you aware that a very famous songwriter lived in your house? And Tim had no idea. It was a guy who wrote big songs in the Edwardian period and late Victorian period. He had no idea whatsoever. I said jokingly, we should put a plaque up to him because your house had a famous songwriter in it.
Glorious, wonderful moments. So it's been a strange time for us all in the entertainment business at the moment. Some of your plans for other plaques must be put on hold. What's going to happen now? What do you have in the pipeline? Let's start with Ian and then Mike. Ian.
Well, I mean, one that immediately springs to mind that we have in mind is for a wonderful actress called Jean Simmons, who was a huge star. I mean, she won't be known to many younger people watching, but she was a huge Hollywood star, although she was British, obviously. She was a huge Hollywood star and appeared in dozens of spectacular movies. And she was a personal friend of a great friend of mine, a late friend of mine, actually. So I met her, was lucky enough to meet her a couple of times. But I know she's approached us, as her family. Is it her family that have approached us?
Yeah, or the estate or something. They were very keen. Yeah. So we looked at it and we said, oh yeah, that's definitely worthy. And the other one I was talking about just now was Kenneth Moore. That their estate approached us a couple of weeks ago. I mean, Kenneth Moore already has one in Fulham, but it's looking to balance it, and also if it's worthy. There's no good putting it if someone was there for a few weeks or they rented it for a day or two. Maybe unless it's Queen Victoria. But I mean, even so, I think you've got to look at it judiciously and quite carefully. We have another major one that we can't talk about, which will be very, very interesting. Even your probing, deep interviewing style won't get it out of us.
Having just mentioned Jean Simmons and Kenneth Moore, people will think we're only doing show business, but of course we're not. I mean, one that we did, I think it was last year, Mike, was it where the first ever game of baseball was played?
That's right. Yes, 1749, Walton-on-Thames. And on the old maps, you can see
Walton-on-Thames in Surrey.
Yeah, England. Yeah, the Walton-on-Thames, Surrey, England.
10 to 6, is that 1749? About 10 to 6. Funny time to start a baseball.
But you can see on the old maps the diamond shape that they use, and it was from the old house, and they used to. And on the site now is the current cricket ground. Oh. And we went through all the old maps, and it was logged in I think it's the not Westminster Gazette, one of those old papers from the Times, and it was dug out by an American researcher, and we thought, wow, and. I was interviewed by the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and we got coast to coast sports news in the States. And the guy on there, he said, we got breaking news on sport, on baseball. He said, it turns out that it was invented before our country was. So they took it in good part, actually. That baseball was older than America. They took it in good part. But yeah, Prince Frederick played in it, the first Duke of Edinburgh. He played in the match, and I suspect a few other well-known people as well. It was all dukes and earls and lords playing baseball in the rain. And then Frederick, of course, would have been, that he was the son of George II, the father of George III, that he would have been the next king had he not been struck by a baseball or a cricket ball and died. So that'll teach him for playing baseball.
Lessons to be learned all around. If people want to find out more, they should go along to your website. What's the web address?
BritishPlaqueTrust.com.
Fantastic. Very easy to find out. We'll put it in the description below. Do get in touch. But on behalf of the Magic Circle, 115 years to the nanosecond later, Ian, Mike, a pleasure to see you both as always. Thank you so much.
Now I can make you
Thanks,
both
Andy.
disappear. Hold on, ready, go.